Okay, this is part 2 of the series on building your own web/file server. So, sorry I haven't made this part 2 for a long time. I've been sick for a bit. But in the first one I discussed choosing parts. And here I have my parts with me. I have just a old GeForce 4, a GP graphics card, two network cards, and my RAM. And I also have right here my motherboard. I don't really know what motherboard this is. If any of you know what it is, I'll just give a quick look over. Please tell me, because it could really use a BIOS update. As you see, it's really old. Socket 370 Intel Pentium 3. I'm not going to go over how to install the CPU, but basically all you do is you stick the CPU in, you close the, make sure it's lined up, close the lever, put the thermal compound on top of the die, and then put this on, and it's a AMD type mounting mechanism. Parts that I do not have on that table or in my lap, I have already in the case, which is my two hard drives. All you do with those is you slide them in and screw them. It's pretty simple. And then my power supply, same thing. Slide it in and screw it. If the screws don't seem to line up, then you probably has it upside down. Then I also have my CD drive. You don't have to put a CD drive in, but it's a good idea because you're probably going to need it in some part of the thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install the RAM. So let me pick this up. So how you do that? Open the levers. Get your RAMs. This is just let's see if you can see that. No, it's too blurry. No, it's 256 megs of PC 100. Same thing. And PC of 133. This is 128 megs. So what you do is you get your RAM, make sure the holes are lined up with the holes on the channel. There's one slot there, one slot there. Filming this with one hand too. I need a cameraman. You put it in, and then you. I should probably be doing this on a hard surface so I don't damage my mobile. That should do. You just press down until both locking levers go into place. You can just squeeze them, make sure it's in. I have two more. Press down again. And it's the same with this. It's basically, assembling a server is basically the same thing as assembling any other desktop computer. It's just, there's fewer components. Candied ginger snack. So pick up the motherboard. Come over here to your case. Screws. Move those out of the way. And then you want to put your standoffs, which are these things, on where your motherboard is going to go. And you want to have, you don't just want two in the middle, you want them on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you want the ones in the middle, because if you don't and you have a heavier graphics card, it can actually bend the board and bust it. Tuck the cable away. So what you're going to do with this is we're going to, I don't know if you can see it, there's the I/O shielder there. You're going to line up the connectors. See how I'm angling the board? I'm going to line up. This is really hard to do with one hand. The connectors with the I/O shield, and then just drop the board in place over the holes. Make sure it's lined up. And then just go ahead, get your screws, and place them in the holes. Like so. This is going to be a kind of a long video. If it gets kind of boring, I apologize. This is just a how-to build a server. While I'm doing this, let's talk about operating systems. For server, depends on what you want. You can either go the Linux route, or you can go the Windows route. For web hosting, I like to use IIS on Windows. I like that one. And for file hosting, I like to use both, actually. It doesn't really matter for me. For some things, though, that require really high security and really, really low maintenance, Linux is best. Because Linux, you can basically just set it and forget it. With Windows, most of the time you have to do a lot of configuration and setup. But that's okay. So now, where's my screwdriver? Just tighten the screws. Don't over tighten them. Just enough to keep the board secure. If you over tighten them, they can strip the threads, because they're really fine threads on these kind of screws. This is actually the first motherboard that I ever had, because most of my computers I've received from other people and then taken them apart and swapped better components out of other computers, or used the older legacy components for simple things like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering what core the CPU is, it's a copper mine. Before we forget, get your 20-pin ATX power connector and plug her in to the 20-pin power connector on your motherboard. If you're using a newer board, it would be 24-pin, and there would probably be a 4-pin, 4-pin power connector, but this one doesn't use a 4-pin power connector, so we don't need that. Now, install the graphics card. That's easy. Just find the AGP slot right there. Align the card and push down. Also, I forgot to mention, before you do any work, you should discharge yourself with static electricity by touching a screw, power case, or using an anti-static bracelet. After that, you install the network cards, so just find whichever one you want, preferably away from the CPU, so the heat, or the graphics card, so the heat from the graphics card doesn't affect the performance of these. Which one is this? Okay. And also your network cards need to be the same speed. No, so these ones are both 100 megabits per second. Cards, they're the exact same model. I'm pretty sure. And then just get the screws, and screw them down. Oh. If you also notice, on this older board, there's not an as big PWM or power phase management, whatever you want to call it, the power regulation, because there's all I really see on this board for that is this capacitor cluster here, that choke, some more capacitors, and these two MOSFETs, and another MOSFET there and there. But that's about it for these. If you see the newer boards like the AM2, AM3, or the 1366, or even the 775, there's a whole row of chokes along, I think it's this side and the top. So let's find how interesting it is, how technology has advanced like that. Screwing in these two network cards now. If also a really good thing is, or a really good consideration is, if you need a really high traffic server, get double gigabyte Ethernet cards, which are these kind of cards, but they're have 1,000 megabytes per second, so a gig per second of transfer speed up and down. So that is pretty good. Also, if you're going to do web hosting on this, check that your ISP will let you, because some ISPs block it for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's security or whatever. Okay, now front panel connectors. You should find the block of connectors on your motherboard. Mine is right there. And follow the diagram. Or there's most of the time a diagram, so let's see here. Speaker, oh wait, speaker, power LED, ATX, switch, HD, oh wait, what's that? Yeah. Turbo LED, HD LED, reset switch. Okay, so now we have our cards, our RAM, and motherboard all installed. Now we can plug in the hard drives. So these hard drives, before you install them, you should configure them for a master slave. And with that, how you do that is you just check the jumpers on here and make sure they're configured right. Also, you can buy a IDE RAID card if you need to, and you can have I think up to like 15, 20. Sorry about that, my camcorder memory ran out. So as I was saying, we've installed the 2 network cards, our graphics card, and our RAM, and the motherboard. And now we're just going to plug in the hard drives and configure them. So what I have there is the 2 hard drives, and you want to configure them so they're master slave if you have to. So that one is the master and that's the slave. That's a 20 gig boot drive, and that's the storage drive that I'm using. For a RAID array, I'm not totally sure with IDE drives on the jumper settings. You'll have to look those up on the internet. But as I'm not really that too familiar with RAID, I know how to set up a basic one, but don't know that much about it. So what you want to do, plug in the hard drives. It's really simple. Is you get your IDE cable and the blue connector that says system. You want to plug in to the IDE 1 socket on your motherboard, which on this motherboard is that one. Go ahead and plug that in. And they're keyed, so make sure you have the connector the right way. If it doesn't go in the one way, don't force it. Try the other way, because otherwise you might bend some pins. Now for the drives, as you'll notice on this cable, there's 2 connectors. There's one in the middle and one on the end. This is the one here is for your master, that's for your slave. So you can go ahead and plug one drive in there, and then the other one. This also goes the same with your CD drives. You only need 1 CD drive, but if you're going to put 2, because for some reason, you have to configure it master slave also. So it's the same thing, but for your disk drive, you're going to plug it into IDE 2, and it's the same thing with the cable. Like the middle one, and then I only have one CD drive, so I'm just gonna plug it into the master. And I'm going to plug in our floppy. The floppy cable, it's 1 cable, 1 connector, and then another connector. There's no middle connector, but the connector with the twist in it is the one that goes into the floppy drive. The other end goes into the motherboard. And as if you look at the pin layout, there's a pin removed, although there isn't on this one, but on some there's a pin removed, so keyed. They're all keyed though, because they have that little notch right there. But most of the time you want to keep the red stripe, I guess, if you're doing it like me, where you're doing it down like this. Keep the red stripe down on the yeah. So just plug that into the floppy drive. You don't have to do any master slave configuration on that. Route your cable however you want it. It'd be awesome if they made SATA floppy drives. And then plug it in to the floppy connector, and you'll know it's the floppy connector because it's the small IDE socket on here. Okay. Now for the power. We've already plugged the 20-pin power connector into the motherboard. Now we need to plug in the connectors into the drives. We're going to do that is you get something like this, and it's 2 Molex, 1 floppy. So it's pretty simple. These are keyed. Just plug it in. Oh. Did it backwards. Floppy. The floppy one's kind of weird. It's like that. It's keyed too, it only goes in one way. Then the Molex. And then the other Molex. And then for the CD drive, you just use any Molex connector that you want for it. And that's your basic server right there. And you can do cable management too, but I'm going to leave that out for now. But that's basically it. So stay tuned for part 3 on configuring and installing the operating system. And that will be coming out, I don't know, whenever I can actually get a DVD drive for this computer, because I need a DVD drive to install Windows Server 2008, because all I have on here right now is for IIS and just file sharing. I've got Windows XP Pro Service Pack 3 running on this for my disk. Here it is. Sec. And no, I need to have the disk. But yeah, we can either install that, or you can install Ubuntu 9.10 or 10.10 or 10.4, whichever distro you or version you prefer of the Ubuntu 10. Or 9.10 server edition. This is Linux. These are available for free off of the Ubuntu's website. You just need to have I forget, but you need to sign up for something, and yeah, and this though it only runs on 64-bit computers, so it won't run on one like this. You need a 32-bit version of this, and you can, for that you need to download the ISO and then burn it to your own disk. And let's see what OSs do I have in here. You can also use just Ubuntu 10.10 Desktop Edition, just uninstall a bunch of things. You could use, also, if you don't want to spend that much for the big Windows server, you could just use Windows XP Home Edition. For that would be for file sharing. That doesn't support IIS. IIS is only supported by Windows XP Pro. I had that problem because I installed that and then I tried to use IIS and it didn't work at all. But yes, and for like a rack, you could build this for in a like 1U, 4U, or something rack, and put it in the rack. But yes, you'd have to have a lower profile graphics card. But all I have this right now. I know, kind of messy. Computer parts all over the place. My monitor, my closet, and then I just have my desk that my dad built me with my desktop. It's running right now, but the monitor is just off. That's the monitor that I unboxed a few days back, and there's the wireless stick. So thank you for watching, and part 3 will be coming out soon. I can show you how to do the IIS on Windows XP Pro, which I'll do soon, but I'll do another video on the installing and configuring Microsoft Windows 2008 Server Edition and Ubuntu Server, or Clear OS. So, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.